In Parshat Chayei Sarah last week, we talked about the notion of the first pasuk. We tried to drill down to why it is that here specifically, Rashi teaches us very famously, there's something about the tripartite division of Sarah Imenu's life, the 100, the 20, the 7, and we talked about various themes therein. I don't want to rehash it, but part of the goal last week was to understand why this pasuk, as opposed to many other places where ages are listed. And we found various indicators that were almost like flags telling us there's something more going on here beyond the immediacy of just understanding the translation of the words, but the phraseology, the bracketing, Vayu Chayei Sarah, etc. Today I want to focus us on a question that will not have an entirely satisfying answer. And I'm going to theorize before we get underway that it deliberately does not have a fully satisfactory answer. And it leaves us feeling something's upsetting about it. And I think that's actually part and parcel of the message. If you look at the second pasuk, we have here Vatamat Sarah b'Kiryat Arba. I'm skipping a lot of words, so I'm focusing now on a theme, but we'll come back to these words after. But Sarah passed away in Kiryat Arba. Why is she in Kiryat Arba? He Chevron. Why do you have to know Kiryat Arba is Chevron? We'll come back to it. The Eretz Canaan. Why is that information important? We'll come back to it. Vayavo Avraham lispod l'sarav livkota. Avram arrived to eulogize Sarah and to cry over her. So much to say about these last words. Avram arrived. Today I just want to focus on the idea that Avram arrived. Where was Avram Avinu? On the level of Pshat, he was in Beersheva. Now, why was he in Beersheva is a question. Now, how do we know he was in Beersheva? Turn back to chapter 22, to Parshat Vayera, to the story of the Akedah, chapter 22, verse 19, pasuk Yotet. The Torah tells us, Vayashav, after the Akedah, Vayashav Avraham el Narav, Vayakumu ve'elchu yadav el Beersheva, Vayeshiv Avram bi Beersheva. He went to Beersheva and he stayed in Beersheva. Right? So, according to Ramban on that pasuk already, he was living really in Hebron, but before he went back to live with Sarah Imenu in Hebron, he stopped off. I say stopped off bitzitutim in quotation marks because if you know the geography, the order from north to south goes Yerushalayim, Hebron, Beersheva. Beersheva is south of, and you have to leapfrog over Hebron. So why did he leapfrog over Hebron and go straight down Kvish Shishim, and then he swung around to get to Beersheva? Why did he do that? The answer is, according to the Ramban, because he had a special quote-unquote business interest in Beersheva. Now I say again, but Tzitutim with a business interest. It's not that he had oil fields. He wasn't running a high-tech. He had there a special spiritual business interest, so to speak. That's where he had planted the Eshel. If you look in chapter 21, one chapter before our story, chapter 21 of Sefer Breisheet, obviously, you recall that Avram Avinu had planted some kind of an Eshel. That's chapter 21, verse 33. Parakhaf Aleph, Pasuk Lamed Gimel. So, Vayita Eshel b'Ve'er Shava, Vayikra Sham b'Shem Hashem El Olam. He planted an Eshel. Shelly, I saw your question. I'm not ignoring it, but we're going to get there. It's an excellent question. So, he planted an Eshel in Beersheva, and in that place, he called out the name of God, who is the Lord of the universe. Yeah, name of Hashem, proper name, so to speak. Kel Olam, the God of the universe, the Lord of the universe. Yeah, Rashi there, in verse 33, chapter 21, verse 33 says, as we've learned many times, we learned it when we were there, two different possibilities. What is this Eshel? Based on the Gemara, the Eshel is a place of eating and drinking, and after the people would eat and drink, he gave them to eat. He hosted them. He had like either, according to one opinion in the Gemara, one version of it, the Gemara in Sota is where it's from, that either he planted an orchard, that there were fruits that he would give to people, they would make a bracha, or alternatively, it was an inn. He set up a little hotel, not for the purpose of making money, not for the purpose of making a profit, Profit, but because he was a prophet. Ha ha ha. Right? That was his job. So he was telling people about Hashem. So what better way to do it than to host them in his convention center? They would come, and when they would eat, either in either case, there was something about eating and hosting people and achnas orchim. And when they ate, he would tell them, "Let's bless God," and he would talk about Hashem. So Avram Avinu comes to this high spiritual moment at Har Moriah of the Akedah, goes to Be'er Sheva. The Ramban says he stopped off in Be'er Sheva. It was the coming down off the mountain spiritually meant to go back to that place. Now, why did he go back there? Not to check on the business interest, but because that's a place where he had set up this spot for religious, as a religious center. He went there to give thanks to Hashem. Now, this would make a lot of sense if it already was set up and known as some kind of a gathering place. Remember, Beersheba on a trade route, also going down to Egypt. That's each of these places, a place that's somehow on a route, on a road. People are going to stop. They're on a journey, and he catches them on their journey and says, "Let's talk about Hashem." And obvious, therefore, he goes back, not because he couldn't pray to God wherever he was. He was actually on Har Moriah. It would have made more sense there. So he gave a korban there, which is very important. That's the ayil, the ram. He goes to Beersheba to tell everyone else the story. And when he gets to Beersheba, and that's when he finds out Sarah had passed away. Now, Shelley asked another question, which we won't really get too much into today, but it's another glaring absence. At the Akedah, the glaring absence was, where's Sarah? And when Sarah passed away, the glaring absence is, where's Yitzchak Avinu? I mean, he was in the story, and he's not mentioned here. Why not? He's going to come up later on. He's the focus of much of the rest of Parshat Chayei Sarah. And remember that he needs comfort on the loss of his mother. It's going to come at the end of Parshat Chayei Sarah when he meets Rivka Imenu. The Torah is going to say that explicitly. Not for today. I want to focus today on Sarah Imenu, but that's a question. Where is he? It's a great question. So for Ramban, he went there. You know, that's it. The Rashbam on our pasuk just says very simply, what is Vayavo Avraham Lispolis Kota? He's not in another place. He's in Hebron. He came to the task. When so-and-so arrived at the podium to give a speech, did they arrive on an airplane? They were sitting there. They were with the people, and they went up to do it. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be more than that. It's an attachment to the task. By the way, Ramban on this pasuk says Vayavo doesn't mean he arrived physically, like he walked up there to do it, but he was awakened to do it. Nitorer Avraham to the Hesped, and then he started to do it. So anytime we talk about arriving somewhere, to be awakened to something, or to be aroused to it, or to be inspired to it, whatever word you want to use. So he came to the task also along the same lines. Yeah. So it just, that's the basic idea. Rashi has another idea. Rashi thinks that actually at the moment when Sarah Imenu passed away, Avram Avinu was still in Beersheba, which begs the question: why was he in Beersheba for so long that he missed it? The Ramban says, wait, when Rashi said they're in that Avram Avinu was coming from Beersheba, it doesn't mean that he was living in Beersheba. How could it be that Avram Avinu would live in Beersheba and Sarah's in Hebron? It must be that Avram went to Beersheba at that day after the Akedah, and everything happened 1, 2, 3, one thing after the other. And then he heard the news. So Davka, the one day he didn't go straight home, he bypassed his home to go down to Beersheba. He suffered this terrible loss, and he found out about it. Now, the Ran, another Rishon, the Ran, who's actually related sort of to the Ramban. The Ramban, among his students, the Ritva and the Rashba, and down the line comes to the Ran. So he's kind of the same school a little bit. The Ran says, I think what Rashi means is that Avraham and Sarah actually did live in Beersheba, both of them. But the way it was organized, if you will, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is that he caused it to be that Sarah would come to Hebron and would die there so that she could be buried there. Now, why was Sarah Imenu going to Hebron, a woman traveling on her own? So the Ran implies that this had to do with the idea that they wanted to be in, they sensed that the end was near, and they wanted to be in the place that is the place where what are called the Avot HaOlam are buried, where the parents of the entire world are buried. Who are the parents of the entire world? First man and the first woman. We have a strong tradition that Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, are buried in Ma'arat Machpelah. Avram and Sarah knew this. Sarah sensed their end was coming. She went up to Hebron. You don't have to accept that if you don't like it. You can go back to the other idea. I don't know. It's a beautiful idea, but Hayitachen, like she sensed, I'm going to die. Why don't I take a trip by myself? My husband's going to stay in Beersheba. See you later. I'm going to die in Hebron. Lo yodea. Maybe I just didn't understand the way it's being portrayed, but whatever. The Malbim has several ideas along the lines of the Ran. He focuses on, and in fact, seems to support the position of the Ran. The Malbim has another idea. He thinks that really it was Me'et Hashem, like everything else, that she should be in Hebron, but that she went to Hebron rather, and whether it's the original reason, that's where the people are going to be buried. They have to be, but also maybe there were other factors that impelled Sarah to be in that place that brought her there. Well, I don't know how convincing and compelling it is. Again, for the various reasons I outlined, but it's something for consideration. Okay. And by the by, if you take that idea, just say it again, just to sort of fill it out. So you say, like, historically and the level of pshat is very hard to understand that she would have gone on a trip by herself. But on another level, the idea that Sarah Imenu is the first one, the initiator, that even when a person is at the last moments of their life, and maybe they're planning for after their life, they're thinking about how in their passing and even after their passing, they can still be informing the next generation. Huh? She's buried, Dafka, in the place of the Avot Olam, who are Sarah Imenu and Avram Avinu, the parents of our nation, and the parents of spiritual progenitors of much that transpires in the realm of major religions in the world. So Shelley asked, do all commentators feel that chronologically the death of Sarah is right after the Akedah? No, not all commentators think that that's the case. I'm trying to remember who says that it was a little while later. I forgot to mention, by the way, the Abarbanel maintains Sarah Imenu went to Hebron because Abraham sent her there. He didn't want her to continue to live in Beersheba because Beersheba is the place of the Plishtim, and bad things had happened in Plishtim with the Plishtim previously. Witnessed the story of Avimelech. So he sent her to Hebron, which is Eretz Canaan, which is the land that Hashem had promised him. So he sent her there to find a place where they could settle, and he was going to come after her with all of the other things. The Radak says he was away. I'm trying to remember now. I had seen it, and now it's slipped my mind. I'm sorry. There is a question of whether they were apart for a longer period of time. Again, most commentators think that these events happened really on the heels of the others. I talked last week about the possibility that there was a wider gap of time between the time of the Akedah and the death of Sarah Imenu. And again, if you maintain that Yitzchak Avinu was just a young boy at the time of the Akedah, which nowhere does it say his age, then it has to be that when Sarah Imenu dies, Yitzchak is much older. So let me say it backwards. I said it forwards, but it's hard either to understand backwards. We know that Sarah Imenu dies when she's 127. The Torah tells us that. We know that she was 90 when Yitzchak was born. Ergo, Yitzchak is 37 when she dies. That we know 100%. What we don't know is, and we've talked about this many times, this is the methodological piece for people who learn Chumash more in depth. Stop thinking of things as having to be always immediate, one after the other, and stop looking at the Torah in such a linear manner. The Torah is chronological generally, but sometimes there are pieces that are either not in the right order because theme overtakes chronology, or sometimes the two pieces, if you picture them as literally two pieces like a slide rule, they're not as close together as you think. There's a gap between the two. Now for Chazal, these two events are connected. The event of the Akedah, the event of the passing of Sarah Imenu. Avram Avinu, therefore, is coming from Beersheba, and that's why he has to arrive. Again, Ramban and the Ran disagree about whether they were in two separate places or not. According to Rashi, was it there were two separate places just for one day, or is it that that really the two of them were living there, but somehow he was out of the way when she passed away. He wasn't there. Now, when you get to the next Rashi, that's where Rashi drills down to this is why it happened. All right. So Rashi writes, Lispod l'sarv livkota, v'nismicha mitat Sarah lakedat Yitzchak. The death of Sarah is right next to the Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Yitzchak. Lefi she'ali de b'sarat ha'akeda shenizdamen ben alishchita v'kim'at shelo nishchat parch nishmat mimena v'meta. So on account of the fact she heard the news of the Akedah and that that her son was almost slaughtered, her soul left her body and she died. And that's how we left it. That's how we ended this year last week. Though now I filled in some more of the, sort of the gap. Avram wasn't there. He wasn't in the picture. How did that happen, etc. What I want to show you now, and I put it on the screen, is a dramatic version of what Rashi tells us in just a few words. And well, it might tie in a little bit even to what we learned last Thursday for those in the Malachim, Sefer Malachim class, but we won't enter into that discussion today. Instead, we'll just look together at this portrayal. This is from the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. It is written by a Tana, by one of the sages of the Mishnah. We've seen portions from this before. When we were studying the Akedah, we made recourse to this book, the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus. He and Rabbi Yeshua are among the main Rebbeim of Rabbi Akiva, and he wrote a book. It's part of the genre known as the time period of the Tanaim. So this book is homiletic in nature. It's not seeking to be parshanut in the sense of what do the words mean. It's rather midrashic. It's filling in gaps, whether it's filling in gaps that are received traditions about what actually happened is sort of the backstory that is deliberately left out of the text of the Torah, Shebichtav, the written Torah itself, but it's part of the oral Torah, which always begs the question, well, why isn't it just in the Torah? And that's always a question that has to be answered if that's the case. Alternatively, it could be, and in some cases is the reality, that some midrashim are the creative writings of Chazal, attempting to fill in gaps and explain I would say, the interstitial tissue that's going to link up various parts. Before I was using my hands to show, it's like on a slide rule, the pieces may be together or they may be apart, which with a longer period than we realize, right? So even though we know for sure Yitzchak Avinu 37 when Sarah Imenu dies, we don't know really how old he is when the Akedah happens. And you can make a cogent case this way and that. However, if we link the two stories and we say that the one happened because of the other, okay, now how old is he at the Akedah? Ergo, he must be 37 at the Akedah. Now the question, the innocent question, my father, where is the lamb for the offering, takes on a much more of a serious case. A 37-year-old man talking to his father, who, by the by, is 100 years older than him. Yeah? So at all times, 100 years old, he's 100 years old when Yitzchak was born. So just to think about those ideas. Anyway, let's go into these words of the Pirkei de Eliezer. And again, to sort of understand why are Chazal telling us this story? Is this a received tradition? Is this part of the creative impulse of Chazal? We never know which is which, by the way. We really don't. We have a sense that some of them are, this is like, this is one that seems to be Misinai. It's like everyone knows this story and it's very important. I always go back to the story that's not in the Torah, Shebichtav, but it's certainly in Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is no less a part of our Torah, of Avram smashing the idols in his father's idol store. Yeah, so everybody knows that story, and it's a crucial story, and all the Mefarshim dealing with it. And the Ramban, we will not go back there now. We talked about it, Parshat Lech Lecha, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Asks, well, why isn't that story in the Torah Shebichtav? And he gives several, approaches. But that's not for today. Okay, I hope it whet your appetite to go study that medrash too. So here's the medrash. Sheba Avram Har Moriah, when he arrived from Har Moriah, Chara Aposhel Samael, Nusach Acher Satan. Right? The Samach Mem means the angel, prosecutorial angel, the Satan, the obstacle of the world. So he was upset. That the Samach Mem, as he's referred to, Samach Mem is the acronym Samael, we call him Samach Mem. He saw that the desire of his heart, which was to destroy the Korban Avinu, did not work. Now, For those who are not with us for Parshat Vayera, spoiler alert, but not once, twice, three times, the Samach Mem, as he's known, the prosecutorial angel, arrived in different guises to try to throw the Akedah off course. One, as an old man appealing to Avram Avinu and telling him it's wrong what you're doing and God will call you a murderer tomorrow. Two, as a young man appearing to Yitzchak Avinu and telling Yitzchak, your father is not 100% and you cannot listen to him, he's impaired. And number three, as a natural obstacle, as a raging river. And all three failed. And the Akedah goes through in as much as the binding happens, and of course goes through in as much as an aisle, which was apparently in the end what seems to have been always intended to be the actual offering that is slaughtered and on the altar and offered up. Yeah. So now the Samach is very upset, if you will, and wants to get what we would have called when I was a kid playing again, last licks. I'm coming back. So Ma'asa, he found the pressure point. Halach v'amar l'Sara. Isara lo shamat ma shenasa ba'olam amra lo lav. He came to Sarah, obviously in human guise. He said to her, didn't you hear what happened? She said, no. Amar la, he said to her, lakach ishei chazakein lanar liyitzchak v'hikrivo la'ula. She is told by the Samach Mem that your husband, who is old, note the word, it's here in an advised manner. He's old, implying maybe he's not 100%. Lanar li Yitzchak. Why I have to throw in he's a nar? In this context, I believe it means he's a little boy. He doesn't know what's going on. So this one doesn't know, that one doesn't know. V'ikrivo la'oli offered him as an offering. V'hanar bocheh u'miyalel shleichol hinatzel. And the child, the whole time, I just want you to know, I bring you the audio track of what was going on over there, that he was crying and he was not able to be saved. Miyad, immediately, hitchila bocha umiyalelet. She started to cry and to wail. Bachta shalosh bechiyot. She cried three times. Three times that she wailed. Okay? And then what happened next? Hold on. These three were keneged, just to state the obvious, in case you haven't made the connection yet. Keneged shalosh tikiyot, shalosh yilot keneged, shalosh yevavot. Three times she cried, she sobbed. That was tikiyah. Three times she wailed. That was the shalosh yevavot. What are the yevavot? Explanation of Rav David Luria, the Biur HaRadal, who was much later than Rabbi Eliezer. Right? He's already an Achron. What does he write? Yevavot Rotzalomar Truot Shalosh Hashanah. And then she died. Uparcha Nishmata Umeta. Ba Avram Avinu Umatzah Shemeta. He came and he saw that she had passed away. Vayavo Avraham Shnemar Vayavo Avraham Lispod L'Sorv Livka. He came to eulogize her and to cry. Mehechan Ba Mehar Moriah. So he died. She died rather, and Avram Avinu arrived.
Rabbi, this still begs the question that I brought up last year of did she know that the Akedah was going to take place?
So that's the next question. Did she have an inkling that it was going to happen, or was it totally without her knowledge? According to this medrash, it would seem. Does she know? I mean, does she know that they went to the Akedah all together? What?
It could be read either way this way, that she knew, and she just thought that God had promised them that it was going to continue, and that something would come, God would provide something that would come along that wouldn't kill Yitzchak. Or it could be that she didn't know at all, because he gets up early in the morning. The text doesn't, if the text is always supposed to be telling you something for future generations, consulting stuff with your wife would be a good thing to say. So another verse saying he told Sarah.
Right. Let me push that further. You're making an excellent point. I'll push it further. What was Avram Avinu already told in chapter 21 by Hashem about Sarah? Remember?
she'd be the mother of the future
Yeah.
generation.
But I'm saying,
Yeah,
remember
to
when
listen to Sarah.
what? Oh,
Hashem told
oh,
Abraham to listen to Sarah.
to listen to Sarah. Kol asher tomar lecha Sarah, shma b'kolah. Whatever she says to do. And if she would tell you to throw out Yishmael, should you listen? You have to listen.
Yes.
And what would happen if Hashem said to Avram Avinu, take your son, your only son, and Avram Avinu said, I'm going to go ask Sarah. And what would have happened if Sarah Imenu said, no? What would have happened? I mean, it's counterfactual because that's not what happened. But could Avram Avinu take that chance? It's a little bit of a question, no?
But it's a question the other way around too. If God previously told you to listen to Sarah, then maybe God is testing you to see whether you're going to listen to Sarah as opposed to the Akedah.
I understand, but from Avinu's perspective, he received a mitzvah from Hashem. The mitzvah is to sacrifice Yitzchak, or at least, to elevate him as an elevation offering. Say it in the language that the Torah itself uses.
But there's a third idea, which is that if Hashem spoke this way about Sarah, that she would have known what Hashem's true thing was in terms of not killing him, but sacrificing the animal.
Keep going.
Right?
Then she's not going to die from this Samach Mem stuff. So then this becomes somebody's allegory that doesn't work. I mean, what Debbie says is very good, but then the Samach Mem business from Pirkei to Rabbi Eliezer doesn't work.
Right. It seems that the story that's here involving this the Satan comes and tells her the story and she's obviously swept up in the story. She thinks, does she not know who it is? Clearly not, because she buys the story. No? I mean, right? That's what happened. He said, oh, your son died. My son died? Right? So we're left with that. We're scratching our head. The story wasn't true. It simply wasn't true. So if the story wasn't true, she died because she misunderstood what happened. I mean, it's very troubling.
Well, he's lying.
Rabbi?
He's lying to her. So
yeah, he's lying. That's right. The Satan lies. Right.
Right.
So the Satan, the satanic edition of the Akedah is Yitzchak was killed. Someone else wants to speak. Was that Rochelle?
Yes.
Hi. Good
Could
morning.
there also, hi, good thing. Could there also be a connection? Sarah sends Ishmael away from Abraham,
Yes.
his firstborn son. She says, take him away, and that's it, send him away. Could there be a correlation here then between that and then Yitzchak being supposedly taken away and so from her?
There very well could be a connection. Now, sorry, Imenu, for good reason, even Hashem lionizes the decision of Sarah Imenu to say he cannot stay in the house. Sarah's correct. Listen to her. What she's saying is true, and you must listen to her. Yeah, right now, Yishmael's not killed, but he is exiled. Right, and what's interesting here is that in the end, the woman who waited so many years for a child and was blessed with a child, and the child at the moment she dies, remember, is 37. So that's in this iteration, Yitzchak Avinu is actually 37 years of age, right? Because otherwise it's not one story right after the other, but years later. So we have here the reality that in a certain way, Avram Avinu was denied Yishmael, and it turns out, very sad, but somewhat symmetrical, Sarah Imenu was denied Yitzchak. what's sad, of course, is that there's collateral damage here also in the what's the word? In the actual moment of victory, there's some kind of defeat that happens. I mentioned this last time also. It's like everything's so picture perfect, except Avram Avinu is denied Sarah Imenu. She passed away, and Sarah Imenu never finds out actually what happens to. I mean, when she died, I'm gathering she found out, but she didn't. She didn't know at the moment that she died in this world, right? That's actually what had really transpired. She died with a mistaken impression. And there's something that's unfulfilling with, I think, with that. And you think about it, it's like, really? Sorry, Imenu, this is a great tzedakah, and that's what happens. And it seems that's what happens sometimes. I mean, it's sad. I don't know what to say.
Except that the Torah, the lessons for us in that are huge. Only Hashem really knows. When our time is to go. I mean, not only doesn't Sarah be around for Isaac's life, but
Yes.
we don't hear very much after this parsha about Abraham either. And to me, this is all really important in terms of I would like it to be a happy ending, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But to me, these are really important lessons in terms of how we should view our life and the whole life and death cycle also.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said now is very, very much true to life. That's part of the whatever the word is, the truth
Rabbi?
of the Torah that it communicates is that stop waiting for a picture perfect happy ending. That's not how it goes. Not it's going to be terrible necessarily, but it's not going to be what you think. You know what I mean?
Rabbi.
I got Karen and Helen.
Okay.
I was just going to say everything
I'll
you
let
just
Karen
said.
go first.
Oh, thanks. I'm really quick, Helen. Don't worry. Everything you just said is I think included in the title of the parsha, which is something I brought up last week. The parsha is entitled "The Life of Sarah," and everything in it is this big contradiction to what that is. So we are just like she was sort of blindsided. We're being blindsided as we begin the parsha. There's that same emotion that we're supposed to feel.
Yeah, I mean, we are shocked, right? When you open the parsha and you're like, what? How could that
I mean,
happen? And when you read this medrash, by the way, you also think, how did the power of evil, there's a God in the world. So how did God allow the Samach Mem, as it were, to get away with such a lie?
I mean, we're not shocked because we've read it so many times. But if you can imagine the very first time,
Right.
this would be, you really would be shocked. You'd finish, everybody's okay, life of Sarah, and then boom, boom. So that's what I.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, the quality of just the words Vayu Chaye Sarah already is the signal that it's sort of the curtain call. We hear the music going. Yeah. It's and that is what happens. That is what happens. So. Okay, Helen, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've got two things. When you said collateral damage, are you saying because she didn't respect another woman's child that this is her punishment?
No. Rochelle just suggested that it wasn't interesting symmetry. No, I wasn't. That's not what I meant. Thank you for asking it.
No.
I meant it didn't mean she was punished because of what happened with Ishmael. No, but my point was. No. Even in the service of Hashem, that is in and of itself done 100% the right way, etc. It doesn't mean that there isn't still going to be an after effect that unfortunately has a tragic dimension to it.
I see.
This is a theme that comes up again and again and again. Unfortunately, it's a reality. Right. Imenu passes away suddenly. Pick another example. Aaron Cohen's children die right on the day of celebration.
Right. Right. My other point is we learn a lesson. How does Sora get information?
Yeah.
So when the Malachim come, and how does she get that information that she's going to get a child? The Malachim are not telling her face to face. They're telling Abraham. And then how does she get that information? So this is a clue about how does Sora get information.
And the beginning of Parshat Vayera, the angels are good. And now the angel that comes is basically evil.
I know, but anyhow, they don't tell her. They tell Abraham that.
Well, they do, but the traditional understanding is that they only came to the house to tell Avram because they wanted to tell Sarah. That's why they ask, where is Sarah? Hinei ba'ohel. They knew she was in the ohel, but she's listening. She hears the.
So is that any clue how she generally gets information, sort of secondhand?
Not necessarily. I mean, hearing from an angel is not a small thing. It's big.
So in regard to the present situation, whether she knows or not, regarding the Akedah, I want to know.
Right. The fact is
what
that here she only does hear.
Getting
You're right.
information.
You're right. This time she really did hear a secondhand. That is true. But she didn't hear a correct. The point, she didn't even hear a correct report.
Rabbi,
Right? I mean, that's what's an incredibly tragic dimension of what's transpiring is the reality that it's not that she heard what happened and the events that actually happened shocked her, that she heard a false story.
Oh,
Rabbi,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Shelley, you wanted to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the idea of Mida Keneged Mida. So
It could
what
be.
Rochelle said about maybe this is some kind of thing because of what she did to Yishmael. Okay, then I want to take it a little farther with another medrash, which I don't usually like medrashes, as we all know.
Yeah.
But the idea that after Sora dies, at some point, Yitzchak goes back to Hagar and brings Hagar to Abraham.
Yeah.
That could be a tikkun for what his mother did. Just like it says at the end of, or somewhere in Chaye Sora, that he's comforting Rivka. Here we're always supposed to learn these lessons, and we're supposed to emulate the Avot and Imahot. So therefore, if he's doing this kind of tikkun, and we can do, supposedly we can do tikkuns for other people's kind of stuff.
Well,
in other words,
in a way, I mean, in a way.
well, the situation will come up again for us, and we can try to. David is supposed to do tikkun for Adam, all that kind of stuff. So I think that the story, in that sense, if you can buy this, all these midrashim, does end happily. Although then the question becomes what Debbie said before: Abraham is sort of out of this at the end, and it's almost like this really holy man goes down to Florida after his wife dies and marries somebody Jewish and puts up a Christmas tree.
Khalila.
I know, but you're going to have to explain to me at the end why all of that happens at the very, very end. Why he marries one.
Shelley, but I want to. I love what you're saying. I want to quibble with one thing you said. You said I don't like midrashim. But you do know that the idea that Keturah is Hagar is a medrash. So there's some midrashim you don't like. Some midrashim don't work for you. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just pointing out. It's there's something there for consideration. Is that it Yecholiot, that really what transpired here is it is related somehow in some, I don't know what you want to say, some kind of backstory related to Ishmael. We don't have a tradition that she's being punished here at all. In fact, we're pinning it on the Satan, that the Satan is wicked, and the Satan wants to stop up the works. Whatever is good in the world, the Satan is the force that tries to upend it, to undo it, whatever word you want to use, unravel it, etc. So I want to show you on the screen another couple of midrash. I just want you to see other versions, I guess. I don't know what else to say it, that are themselves maybe shocking or what, I don't know, but they're also part of the canon. They are later midrashim, I'll grant you. Let's put it up on the screen here. Let's see if I can do this. I want you to see when you look at it with your eyes. Oh, another addition. So you have the following. When the Medrash describes that Avram took the knife, this is back in Parshat Vayera. It gives you the description, that when they were going, the Satan came to Avraham. You have that over here. Then that story, right? And Avram's in dialogue. So miyad halach etzel Yitzchak, right? You go into Yitzchak, and again he asked them a question, right? And they went back and forth. But watch this, okay? And here now this is going to be a little bit maybe mind bending to some, but it will explain maybe something about what transpired here. The third you have here, number one went to Avraham, number two went to Yitzchak. Then we have the following. Let me find it here. Here, third is not that he became a river for a third, but halach etzel sarav amarla b'neich heichen halach. Where did your son go? He asked Sarah. Now, when did he ask Sarah? While Avram and Yitzchak are walking to the Akedah. Amrolo, she said to him, Aviv holichol lilmod Torah etzel Aver. He went to learn Torah with Aver. Where is Aver? Aver is a descendant of Shem, and Aver is located in the same place Shem is, in the place that was known as Shalem, at the base of the mountain that would soon be called Har Hashem Yireh Shalem, Yerushalayim. So that's where it is. That's where it's located, the base of the mountain at Har Moriah. So what did the Satan say? Amarla Satan, Oy alufta, Oy, you shame, alufta means shamed one, like you've been played. Like that's not what's going to happen. Your husband's not taking your son for learning. He's taking him to be shachted. He's going to be killed. And you were fooled. So the Satan here is actually trying to drive a wedge between Avram and Sarah. He made up a story. But the story was not entirely false, was it? Isn't that really where they were going? I mean, at least what they think they're going for, carrying a knife. That's why it's over here by Kachra. So back over here, Shishama Kara Leganach Tchila Uliyael V'Yatz Nishmat M'Rovat Sar. And as soon as she heard this, she started to moan. Today we call that in Hebrew Shvarim, and then she had a trua. And her neshama left her body because she was so pained by this. Therefore, it says, Vayavo Avraham Lispolat Sarv Liv Kotar. According to this Medrash, when did Sarah Imenu die? Before the Akedah. Sarah Imenu died after she woke up in the morning and they weren't there. And we learned that the cover story was that Aviv Holichol Lilmod Torah Eitzel Aver. It explains why they're walking north from their home, why they're going up to Yerushalayim. There's a famous yeshiva there. I'm taking the boy to yeshiva. But the Satan says that's not where they're going. So you can imagine her running through the streets asking people, did you see my husband? Yes, he left this morning. What was he carrying? He was carrying wood. Wood? Yes. And what else? A knife. A knife? You don't take that when you take your son to yeshiva. We're dropping you off, sonny, here, just in case you need to hear some rope and wood and a knife. Doesn't make sense. Unless the Satan meant something. So that's the Shvarim Trua, and she dies. Another Midrash, also relatively late, the Otzer Midrashim. These Midrashim, this is Rav Shlomo Buber. This is Eisenstein. I forgot already his first name. They edited these based on later Midrashim that were found. Phil, give me 1 second because I'm running out of time over here, but I just want to see another edition of this Midrash. We have again the same thing. The Satan came to Yitzchak. I can give you the whole thing. It's very, very long, right? But he looked like a young man just like him. And they had the whole conversation back and forth. Yeah. So, okay. So what happens? He refers, the Satan calls the Yitzchak the son of the shamed one. Why was she the shamed one? Because Hagar had a child. Everything was easy and everything was terrible for her. So finally they have their conversation, just like we learned in the other Midrashim. V'shuv halacha Satan l'Sara. V'nidme la l'zakein. He came as an old man. Amar la Avram be'alech. Heichan halach. Where did he go? Amralo l'malachto halach. Right? So So he went to his job, to his task. The Yitzchak b'nei heichan halach amrlo imo halach limod Torah. He went to learn Torah. Where is Yitzchak going now? Is he going to yeshiva? He's not going to yeshiva. He's going to work with his tati, with his Abba. Abba goes to work doing what? Bringing people closer to Hashem. What does Yitzchak do? He's an apprentice. That's what everybody learns, Neil. There's no school. So you come to learn Torah from his father. Amar la aluvas is the Cana. You are so ashamed as an old woman. You're out of touch. You have no idea where they're going. Yeah. So here in this version, her stomach dropped. She was panicked, but at the same time she was like out of the world. And nonetheless, in this version, she strengthened herself and she declared to the Samach man, whatever God does, it'll be for the good. He does it for peace, does it for life. It's not on me. I'm sure whatever my husband's doing, it's the right thing. When the son saw that, so now, what did he do next? He saw that he wasn't successful to cancel the Korban of Abraham. This is all before. So what did he do? Then he became a great river. And then we have the whole story of how, the rest of this story plays out right to the end. Yeah, that he wants to be shafted, etc. And the story comes to a close. Right? In this version, at least what we have here, it seems why at least in this piece, why does Sarah Imenu die? Not because of the Sutton. Maybe she died for some other reason. But she, to the end, was very strong. Anyway, Phil, you want to say something? I'm sorry I kept waiting so long.
The Son of Man exists at the will of Hashem.
Correct.
Does the Son of Man or any other messenger carry out the tasks that Hashem assigns them, or are they independent beings and they can do whatever they want?
The answer to your question is a complicated yes. Meaning, we don't entirely understand the mechanics of how this functions. Mechanics is absolutely the wrong word. It's borrowed terminology. All of the emissaries of Hashem are employees. The question is how much leeway they have, and it seems to be, based on our limited knowledge, that of all of them, Hashem has sort of quote unquote empowered the Satan to serve in the manner of a prosecutorial angel. Witness what's going on in the book of Eov. Witness what you have in the book of Zechariah. It's not that they're independent completely, but that's part of the, what's the word? Part of the, I'm missing the right word. It's part of the setup on purpose. But it's not that it's Hashem versus the Satan. In certain other religions, they have there's like two forces. That's actually Zoroastrianism and others. That's of course completely anathema to us. But the idea that the Satan has a job, and the job is stop things up in the world. Within the human soul, that's the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara going back and forth. The two are in a sort of a tension and a conflict. So the idea here is that the Satan, we're left with the mystery, and that your question is the mystery. Why does Hashem let that happen? Why does the Samach Mem exist? Why is there evil in the world? Why is that? Why does Hashem create a world that's not itself perfect? God's perfect, so he created a world not perfect? No, the world is perfect, but somehow there's something there that's still leaving us with these questions. And we read Parshat Chayei Sarah, again, if we connect the two stories, it's with my fingers, it's the same story. It's one leading into the other. We're just wondering, what? Now, one of the midrashim we just read now is actually Sarah died before they even got to the mountain, because the leaving of the house, and there is a certain, the lack of the reality that she was not aware completely of what was happening, made her susceptible in a way to the importunings and the temptations of the Satan. Right? If we believe a lie for a moment, look how terrible the consequence can be. And the lie oftentimes starts with, don't trust the people that you thought you were supposed to trust, as the basic assumption, or the undermining of the basic idea that, but in the last medrash we saw, she's standing strong. She tells the Samach Mem, I don't care what you say. I don't listen to you. So the Samach Mem has no recourse, becomes a river, a physical obstacle to drown Yitzchak and Avraham, on the way to the Na'arim, on the way to the Akedah. And that doesn't work. Yeah. So I know the answer is not entirely satisfactory because there isn't a entirely satisfactory answer. It's the question of the world, in a way, right? We know that the Malachim, however, they don't have free will. They're functionaries. They're lahavdol bureaucrats of the divine. They carry out the divine will. How can the divine will include this? Taka question. Anyway, we're out of time already. I see we're actually over time by 7 minutes. I know there's much more to say. Can we maybe table it this week? But God willing, we'll learn again next week. And we'll and Rachel, is that someone named Rachel? Is that Rachel Rosenfeld or someone else? I'm not even sure. But is it mentioned anywhere in Chazal that what happened to Sarah had anything to do with the fact that she told Avram Avinu, send Ishmael away? No, I did not see that anywhere in Chazal. It's it's Rochelle Pelson. No, Rochelle Pelson is elsewhere. It's an interesting idea, though, and it's worthy of consideration when you look at the symmetry that's going on. But I never saw anywhere that she's punished for it or anything like that. I just never saw such a thing. I don't know. Doesn't mean it's not out there. I just haven't found it. Okay, Adkan for today.
Rabbi,
God
one more
willing,
thing.
we'll talk again soon. I'm going to stop the
Why-
recorder and let anyone go who wants to go. Shelley, you're welcome to stay.